Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to be talking about refreshable modifier in SwiftUI. Refreshable is also known as pull to refresh, and this was basically a modifier that was introduced in WWDC 2021 in SwiftUI world. So before this, the pull to refresh functionality was only available through UI kit bridging, and if you needed basically pull to refresh for your list, then you'd have to port it from UI kit, but not anymore. Starting iOS 15 and above, you can actually directly integrate this pull to refresh directly using refreshable modifier. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with some examples. Before we go into the example, I just want to quickly throw in, if you haven't checked out devtechie.com lately, there are a lot of new additions to this. We recently launched machine learning deep dive, basics to advanced, and this is an online book that covers some great detail of machine learning in SwiftUI and iOS. So go ahead and check it out here. There are 10 plus projects and 10 plus machine learning models. Get you ready for today's on-device machine learning environment. Okay, all right, with that, let's go ahead and resume the normal programming. We're gonna go ahead and start with an introduction, understand what refreshable is. So refreshable modifier basically simplifies the way you can refresh your list or list views, and it can actually work, as a matter of fact, on any SwiftUI views. The target, or the minimum support, is iOS 15, so you should at least have your app target as iOS 15, macOS 12, tvOS 15, watchOS 8. As long as you have that, that's the bare minimum requirement, and you're using SwiftUI, you are all golden. You can use refreshable for yourself, okay, for your views. Okay, so the modifier itself is very easy to use. It leverages SwiftUI's new concurrency model, async and await, and in this case you don't have to, because it already conforms to async and await, then you don't have to wrap your functionality inside and task block or something like that. Let's start with looking at the signature. So we can simply type refreshable, and it creates this code block. Now this code block is async await capable, so it's similar to what you have basically a task modifier for. Okay, so if we jump into the definition, we can see that it actually takes a few parameters. So first of all, it is async. Okay, so you can call it asynchronously, and that is one of the most important things you should keep in mind whenever you're making network calls. Make sure they are always async. Okay, then you have basically a trailing closure, which is escapable and sendable. So basically your block can continue to execute. Okay, and it returns the new content, refresh content to the environment, and you can actually make direct changes into your view, or the variables that are driving the view. Okay, so how do we use it? Let's go ahead and use it with a simple example. So what I'm going to do is right here, we're going to create a state property. Okay, and this is going to be an array. Okay, this array is going to range from 0 to less than 5. All right, and in the body, we're gonna have a navigation stack first. Inside the navigation stack, we're gonna have a list. This list is going to have a for each view, which is going to use our random data. Now, random data is simply an array of integers, so it does not ID itself. So we need to create the ID. And we're gonna say this integer's hash value becomes the unique ID for each individual element, and we get individual item right here. So we're going to take that item, display it inside a text, and we are simply going to add +1, and Xcode is very smart in that. So now we can see that we have item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Okay, let's go ahead and add a navigation title, devtechie.com, and then we are going to add our refreshable. Okay, refreshable takes a trailing closure, and you can basically call an async function inside this block. Okay, so we're going to create a function. Let's create a private function, and we're going to call this fetch data. Okay, we're going to make this async so we can call it inside the refreshable. Okay, and we're going to say try await task.sleep for 2 seconds. Okay, and then we're going to say random data dot append, and we're going to use int.randomin, and let's generate a random number between 10 and 10,000. And now we actually are appending that data. So we're going to call this fetch data function right here, and you can see it is a async function, so we have to put await here, and now we are ready to use it. So if you pull down your list, you're going to see a new item appear at the bottom. Now this is as easy as it gets, basically, to add a refreshing list and being able to append new data as it comes in, or as user pulls down your list to basically view the new content. Okay, now this is basically an example that is using task.sleep, but ideally in real world you're not going to use it. You're going to basically make a network call. Now this example right here that we have, it demonstrates the basic concepts, but let's go ahead and try out something by making a network call. And we're going to use this API. Again, we're going to add a delay, but we're going to add a delay through the API, and API call is going to go to this website called HTTP bin. HTTP bin is a testing environment which actually lets you test network calls, and you have a bunch of calls that you can make different types. So you can actually test out your full API integration and mock a lot of data just by using this, and it is HTTPS supported, so you are in good hand. You don't have to add any security layer exceptions. Okay, all right, so this is what we're going to be using. Okay, what specifically we're going to do is we're going to use one of the endpoint called delay, and we're going to add 5 seconds of delay. Okay, so this function right here is going to change a bit. Okay, so it's not going to change this portion right here, but we're going to add a do try catch. So we're going to say do try, actually let's say let underscore, and this is basically for our network call, and we're going to say try await on URL session dot shared dot data. Now URL session actually has an overload that takes async and await calls, and it returns data and URL response. We are not interested in any of those, so we are not interested in data or URL response. We just want to add a delay. Okay, so that's why we are simply putting this tuple for underscore. That way we can simply ignore the response. All right, now time for the URL data from a URL, and the URL is basically a URL object string https http:/bin.org/delay/5. This 5 is basically number of seconds of delay that you want in your UI. Okay, now this right here actually is a throwable call, so it's throwing an exception. URL session can throw an exception, so let's go ahead and catch that. But before catching that, we want to move this guy right here. Okay, so we want to call our random number function or random data.append right underneath when the response has been received. Okay, and then we're gonna add a catch, and catch block will give us access to the error, and we're gonna simply print the error. There we go. Okay. All right, so now what we are doing is basically we are calling the we are making actual network call using URL session right here, and we are fetching the data. Okay, now not really, but you get the point. We are actually making a call, and then after a delay we are appending some data into it. So this is more realistic looking. So let's go ahead and try this out. So we're gonna wait for 5 seconds, and after 5 seconds a new element will be added. Now this could be basically a call to fetch an image or fetch a new data from your server endpoint, and then when you receive that endpoint you parse that data right here and from that response, and then you append it inside your program's body. Okay, all right, so this is like, basically all it takes to add a pull to refresh functionality inside your app. Now there are a few things to remember in this case. First of all, concurrency is integrated and it is directly supported by Refreshable. That means it can use async and await. So whenever you're making a network call, make sure that your functions are also and they should always be async in nature, so they are not executing on main thread. Error handling, make sure that you're handling network errors properly, and you're displaying or giving some indication to the user when there is an error occurred. And availability is the last important thing. If you're targeting anything below iOS 15, then you would still have to port in the pull to refresh from UIKit. But if you're anything above iOS 15 or at iOS 15, then you can freely use this refreshable modifier. Okay, with that, we have reached the end of this video. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video.